with Alice, yeah, I was more of a hired hand, and I played a couple songs on the record, and I remember them sending me the songs in advance, so I got to hear them, which is always a good thing, so you don't go into the situation cold. And they were recording up in Bearsville, New York, at a legendary studio, Bearsville Studios, and which happened to be like 4 hours drive from my house. So I just drove up one evening, checked into this little condo, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, went to the studio, met Alice, Peter Collins, who was producing the record, Paul Northfield, who was engineering. And my man, we mic'd up my amp and just pretty much went for it. And I laid down the rhythms and the solos for the two songs, Dirty Dreams and Hurricane Years. And then, it took like maybe 5-6 hours. We finished, we all went out to dinner, and then I drove home. It was pretty surreal in a lot of ways. And then I thought it was just pretty much going to be that, because they hadn't asked me to join the band at that point. It was just play on the record. And then like maybe a month or two later, I heard from my manager saying, hey, they would like you to do the tour also.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have to say, I'm very honored, very privileged to have the one and only Vinnie Moore here on my show. And, he has an album that came out earlier this month. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but right now, let's get to know Vinnie. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Well, I think pretty much everybody knows most of it, just a music guitar freak. And, that's about it. Pretty much consumes my life,
I totally understand. But hey, man, at least you're doing what you want to do, right?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have been able to do it for this many years. And I mean, believe it or not, I'm just still striving to get better and reach higher levels, You always got to have a goal and want to do something different and go further and take it somewhere you haven't been before. So that's always what I'm thinking, to just keep working hard and working towards something and keep striving, to be better.
Mm-hmm. So the new album is called Double Exposure.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Tell you what, you've got some pretty cool rocking tunes on that. It kind of took me back, but I was trying to think of what could I compare it to, and I can't really compare it to anything. I guess if Steve Vai and Eddie Van Halen got together and made a band, that'd probably be pretty close.
I thought you were going to say a baby. I was like,
no, not a baby, not a baby.
Both of those guys, I don't know if I want to see Offspring.
It's refreshing. It took me back to my high school days, but there's something like new about it, though it has that sound of the 80s to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of my influences in there, from Hendrix to Van Halen to Aerosmith. A lot more that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, Allman Brothers, like some of the stuff's got almost like a Southern vibe to it, like Hummingbird. And that's my Skinner Allman Brothers side coming out. So I just kind of went for it. I didn't have any grand scheme as far as stylistically speaking. I just kind of pick up a guitar and I write and let it go wherever it's going to go. And that's the only plan, is just grab a guitar and work hard and be free and see where it takes you.
Was any of that stuff you've been holding on to for some time?
Yeah, there's always ideas. Yeah, I write a lot, actually. And, I have tons of things laying around that I haven't done anything with. And that kind of frustrates me, actually, because I want to just get so much of my stuff out there. But, it's hard sometimes to make time. But, now I think with this record, some time opened up because of the COVID lockdowns. I was supposed to be on tour with UFO and all that, kept getting postponed. So I had time to finally get some of this vocal stuff together. And ironically, what I was going to do first is make like a guitar EP, an instrumental EP with 6 songs. And I thought, let me just do this and get it out there quickly while there's some time. And, we don't know how long this lockdown scenario is going to last. So just got to do something. I can't sit around and twiddle my thumbs. So that was the plan. And then I began listening to the demos and I went, man, could be a cool vocal song, man. I started singing with it and hearing ideas in my head. As I listened through all the songs, I was like, man, all these could be just rock songs with vocals. And so I thought, wow, then what if I did like a half and half record? I did 2 versions of each song, one with vocals, one as originally intended, which was instrumental, and see how that goes. I don't think anybody's done anything quite like that before, so it could be cool, could be interesting and quirky. So that's what I did. And then my little project that was going to be a quick, little thing that I put out there kind of grew, exponentially, and it became a lot more work because then there was like putting together the singers and, writing lyrics. And even though I didn't write many of the lyrics, I did write a lot of lyrics and I actually sang to every song so that when I presented the singers with the songs, they got an instrumental version with no vocals, and then they got a version with me just kind of, singing nonsensical lyrics and nonsensical words just so they could kind of get the idea of, what I was thinking and where I was going. When I'm writing this stuff, I'm so close to it that I'm not really aware. I like learn things from other people, such as yourself, commenting on the solos or the songs or whatever. And then I go, oh, yeah, interesting. But, I'm not thinking along those lines. I'm just kind of going with the flow and creating. And again, I'm so close to it that it's kind of hard to back up and get some perspective. Sometimes that takes like a couple of years to go by, and then go listen in retrospect and go, oh, yeah, to get a vibe for what you've actually created.
In my understanding, you got a guitar for Christmas when you're what, like 12, 13 years old, something like that?
Yes.
And that's how you kind of kick things off.
That's how it started, and I had all these high hopes. Like I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. And I was hearing songs on the radio and I thought I'm going to be playing that solo after a couple weeks. And then I got the guitar and I grabbed it and I went, oh, wait a minute. I underestimated, how complex this actually is, as you do when you're a kid, I guess. And I kind of got frustrated, initially. And my mom always laughs at me because on Christmas Day, the guitar came in a cardboard box. And like I took the box and I wrote Queen, Kiss, Peter Frampton, and I with markers, and I played with the box more than I did the guitar. And then just kind of sat around. I didn't like play with it a whole lot. And then for some reason, like that February of that next year, I started taking lessons. And, the first lesson was like horrible. It didn't go very well at all. I was like, the guitar was falling off my leg. I couldn't hold it properly. And the teacher was like, well, I don't know if this is good. She told my mom, he can't even really hold the guitar, it's falling off his leg. And let's give it one more week and see how he does. But, I'm not so sure this is going to be for him. And I got all frustrated. I remember being in the car driving home going, I want to play drums again. Forget guitar. I had drumsticks at that point. I want to take drum lessons. But then I got home and I just started working on the lesson that I was taught over and over, and I went back in the second week and I had it down. And like the teacher was totally impressed. She couldn't believe like the turnaround, that I made in a week. And, soon after that, I became her favorite student. And so something happened in that one week, that thank God it did. Because, if it didn't, I might have quit playing pretty early on.
You say, look at me now.
Yeah, look at me. Look what I've become.
When you decided to become a musician, did you get a lot of support from your family?
There was support, but man, I grew up in a small town in Delaware, in the middle of nowhere, and like actually making a career out of playing guitar or even music was like, pretty unheard of. So there was support, but there was like a lot of, wow, I don't know if that could ever happen kind of attitude, you know, and
Mhm.
rightfully so. And I just started getting more and more serious about it. And I think at a certain point, my parents realized that I had a talent for it. And, they kind of hoped for the best, but, you know, there was a lot of, hey, when are you going to get a real job for a while there? And luckily, I got off to an early start. When I was like 19 or 20, I was able to do a Pepsi commercial. I was in Guitar Player magazine, and that was all happening at like 19 or 20 years old. So, I got very lucky to get my foot in the door. And once I got my foot in the door, I said, fuck it, I'm going as far as I can with this. I capitalized on it and
Yeah.
just took almost every opportunity I could possibly take.
You have the famous picking hands in the Pepsi commercial.
Yeah, they showed my left and right hands in that commercial. I was initially auditioning for the video part too, but I was really young and I think I was really shy, camera shy. And, unfortunately, I just couldn't overcome that part of it. I was a little, bit too timid. And so I lost out on the video part, but luckily I got to do the music.
Now, what do you attribute to your persistence and to want to keep trying instead of just giving up?
I don't know. It's part of my personality. I'm just like that. I'm a little like OCD. Seriously, not just joking about it. I have that kind of personality. And so, like, if I can't do something right away, I get frustrated a lot. But then it makes me want to keep fighting, to get it. And so I'll just like work hard on things. And, I didn't really choose to be that way. We don't really choose our personalities, I don't think. It's just kind of natural.
Mhm. Now, this can be in music or it could be in life in general. What would you say has been the biggest like hurdle setback in your life?
Biggest hurdle or setback? Man, that's a tough one. Um, well, I just think as far as playing instrumental music as a solo artist over the years, that's not the easiest path that could have been taken. And but I have loved doing it and it was my passion. And so I just kept going with it and trying to forge forward. But it was definitely not the easiest path to take. And it's good also that I joined UFO and went for more of the band situation, which is something I also always wanted to do. But yeah, I guess, first thing that comes to mind is that.
Mhm. Well, when you got in UFO, I mean, you're an awesome guitar player. But
Thanks, man. Thanks.
was there ever a feeling that you had to fill in the last guy's shoes, or you just felt free to be yourself?
Not for me. I just felt free to be myself. And Phil, who was the leader of the band, encouraged that. He just wanted me to do my own thing. And he is used to having a songwriting partner to collaborate with. And that's really what he was looking for, a guy who came in, played, good, but also wrote a lot so he could write songs together with that person. And I think that's pretty much why I got the gig because he knew I had done a lot of records where I wrote my own stuff, and that's what he was looking for. And when I went in, I didn't, I grew up into the band. I was a fan. So I felt like, oh, I could fit right into this. I'm not going to have to really alter myself much or at all to fit into this. Where had it been like some other band, I might have had to like make adjustments. But this was like a natural, I don't want to say transition, but it was just natural for me to fit right into what they were doing. I grew up playing their songs in my bedroom and in cover bands. And yeah, I just did my thing. And certain songs have melodies or solo parts that need to be copied because they're part of the song and you can't not do them. They have to be there.
Right.
And then other parts are more free to just, you know, go with the main vibe, but just do your thing and live in the moment, play in the moment, and, you know, improvise.
Did you kind of fan out a little bit when you met him?
Um, Not really. I don't know why. I guess I was just that I had been in the music business for quite a while. Had I been younger, you know, and joined the band, I might have been more fanboyish.
Yeah.
But I guess I had met a lot of people and been in the business a while. So, you know, I had played with Alice Cooper, and so it was pretty good for that. Ironically, I've heard I was like the 17th guitar player in UFO, which I never would have imagined. I couldn't name more than five of them, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really good thing, a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. If you did the family tree for UFO, it would have quite of an extension to it.
Exactly.
So I mean, what you had Michael Schenker that was in the band. He was what, the second guitar player in the band?
Well, I think he's what's considered the quintessential guitar player for the band, and then maybe Paul Chapman, you know, after that. So when I came into the band, that's kind of, you know, it was the Schenker period and the Chapman period. And they
Mm-hmm.
kind of had long left the early years where they had Mick Bolton and Larry Wallace. I forget which one of those guys was the original guitar player, but, you know, they started out as a space rock band in
Mm-hmm.
'69. And yeah, kind of, they had a couple of hits in Germany, you know, we hear about these songs a lot, Boogie for George and Prince Kajuku. Every time we play Germany, they're still going, Prince Kajuku. I got to get around to learning that. We got to do it, you know, just for Germany anyway.
What was it like playing with Alice Cooper compared to where you're doing now?
It was a lot of fun in that scenario. It wasn't like a very long term thing, you know, it was just one summer. And I was just a hired hand. I wasn't like officially a member of the
Right,
band.
right,
And
right.
so that's the main difference. And, you know, at the point I joined UFO, that's really what made it appealing to me, that they wanted a songwriter and they wanted a guy to join the band and be a member of the band, not just a hired hand. So that was like a really good thing. And I'm, you know, real thankful that, you know, Phil was thinking along those lines, because that, of course, was really good for me. And I think I was at that point, I was just at the stage in my career where I just don't want to be some hired hand unless I'm playing with, you know, Sting or something. I don't know. Sting's the first guy that came to my head. Sting, you got some money? Give me a gig. No, just joking. With Alice, yeah, I was more of a hired hand, and I played a couple songs on the record, and I remember them sending me the songs in advance, so I got to hear them, which is always a good thing. So you don't go into the situation cold. And they were recording up in Bearsville, New York, at a legendary studio, Bearsville Studios, and which happened to be like 4 hours drive from my house. So I just drove up one evening, checked into this little condo, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, went to the studio, met Alice, Peter Collins, who was producing the record, Paul Northfield, who was engineering. And my man, we mic'd up my amp and just pretty much went for it. And I laid down the rhythms and the solos for the two songs, Dirty Dreams and Hurricane Years. And then, you know, it took like maybe 5, 6 hours. We finished, we all went out to dinner, and then I drove home. It was pretty surreal in a lot of ways. And then I thought it was just pretty much going to be that, because they hadn't asked me to join the band at that point. It was just play on the record. And then, like, maybe a month or two later, I heard from my manager saying, hey, they would like you to do the tour also. And which was a really good thing, because their initial plan was they were going to do this Operation Rock and Roll tour with Judas Priest, Metal Church, and Dangerous Toys, and Motorhead, which is what we did all across America. But then Alice was supposed to go back out and do a solo tour in America. And that was like the perfect scenario, because I had just recorded a record called Meltdown, and that was going to be coming out during that time period. So it was just like, all the planets were lining up. It was the perfect scenario. Me being on the road with Alice all over America when my record's coming out, and we're on the same label. But then, unfortunately, Alice's plans changed. They decided to go to Europe for 6 months. And so the record company was saying to me, if you go to Europe for 6 months, it doesn't make any sense to put your record out. We're just going to hold it back. And so I had this dilemma, like, what do I do? I want to do both things. It always seems to happen that way, where there's two things at once and you can't do both. So I just believed in my record, and I really wanted to get out and do solo shows. So I went down, followed that path. And it was really cool because I opened for Rush some shows, and that was a really cool thing. But I wish I could have done that Europe tour with Alice too. But unfortunately, things kind of happen like that sometimes.
Yeah, that's gotta suck, man. That was when like the chance of a lifetime, to be able to tour Europe with
I
Alice
know,
Cooper. But
totally. It's like,
you
how can these two things be happening at the same time?
you got to go with your heart, man. Go with your gut. Go with your heart.
Yeah, I had so much invested in the solo record, and that's where my heart was, and I just had to follow that dream.
You just got this album out, but are you one of those guys that you just keep working, or are you going to take a break for a while?
Well, I'm working, but I'm working on doing interviews and a little bit of the business stuff now. And I'm still playing guitar every day, but pretty soon I want to get back into actually, creating and recording some music. So sometimes I go through periods where I intentionally don't do that. That way I come back refreshed and, recharged, and I'll be back at it soon for sure. But lately it's been all about the new record.
Do you write some songs thinking of somebody you want to collaborate with?
No, I don't really have any plans as far as who I might collaborate when I'm writing. I'm kind of a, just play guitar and let it happen kind of guy. And, it can be either feast or famine. You could sit around for a couple weeks and nothing is exciting, nothing inspires you or excites you. And then all of a sudden there can be this like great idea, like that just opens the floodgates. And then you're like, before you know it, you have all these related ideas and you're recording a new song. You go, wow, where'd that come from? But you just never know, but you have to be playing for that, to capitalize on those moments when they do come.
Well, you do so many interviews, and I know you probably get asked the same questions over and over and over again. Is there anything that you ever want to talk about that you never get a chance to?
What do I want to talk about that I never get a chance to? Oh man, that's a good question. You stumped me. I'll probably think about it in 5 minutes.
Or you're like me at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I used to be like a late night guy. Now it's usually only on the road that I stay up late. My schedule's turned around. I get down into my studio when I'm working on something like at 10 o'clock in the morning and just hang out for like 7 hours, get a good jump on the day.
I couldn't believe how my life changed after my 40s. It's like I feel like going to bed at 8 o'clock.
It changed for me in the 30s because I had kids, and it's like impossible to sleep late when you have kids.
Your kids, are they interested in getting into music?
They love music, and my youngest, he's playing guitar a lot more now, and he's actually getting pretty good. I always tell him, man, you're like way better than you should be for the amount of time you've put into it. He has this knack for it, and he goes through these like little spurts where he'll play for a week or two and then not play for a month, and then he'll revisit the guitar and like remember all these songs and these parts I showed him or parts he's learned from YouTube, videos. And he's actually really good, man. He's got some good technique, and he's learned some songs from Boston's first record, playing melodies, and solos and stuff. And yeah, I mean, he's a lot better than he should be for the time he's put in. No, I wish he had played twice as much. He'd probably be out shredding me at this time.
Well, yeah, we always kind of want the best for our kids, and if that's his destiny, you know,
Yeah, that's always been my thing, not to really interfere with them
yeah.
too much, to kind of let them follow their own path, and their own interests, and live their own lives. Just kind of guide when they need to be guided.
Well, in my case, I didn't want my kids growing up to do what I did, so yeah, I would love for them to
Yeah.
have gotten into music, but they're doing what they want to do, and they're pretty successful at it. So I'm proud. Some parents, though, man, they just push them to be the same thing that they are.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. It backfires most of the time. They want to do their own thing.
How did you balance being a father and being on the road?
Yeah, it was a little difficult at times, Uh, for them, they're a lot more resilient. I think it's tougher on the parent being away from home. But when I was going out for tours with UFO, we would go out for like 3 or 4 weeks max. So you just kind of like, you go out there and you do it, and it would go by quick enough and you'd be home again. It wasn't too bad. It was never a situation where we were out for like 3 or 6 months, like some other bands. That would have been a little tough, and required adjustments. But yeah, a month wasn't so bad.
You ever have those times where you kind of just reminisce about the old days, and I don't know, there's something that you miss that you wish you could go back to?
Sometimes that happens. It's fun. Sometimes I'll have a wake up and remember a dream, and that kind of puts you in that kind of, you know, vibe or
Yeah,
mood, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you can always go back and try to like reevaluate and think, how could I have done this different? Did I miss out on this? Did I miss out on that? But everybody could do that. But yeah, I try not to lament and just kind of, you know, be happy for what I've been able to do, which is like in a lot of ways amazing. Some of the things I feel really lucky and blessed, to even be still playing music, to have played with UFO, to be able to make solo records. It's pretty amazing gift. So
I don't know about you, but it seems the older that I get, the more I reminisce about the old days and
really,
get kind of down. I miss being a kid.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I try not to go there too deeply, too far into it. I'll try to like refocus my energy to something else. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. A lot of times it's not good for you.
That's true. Well, if you could stay positive, that you should do whatever it takes to stay there. The thing is, I mean, we're all going to have those moments where we kind of fall, start to slip into that sadness. But as long as you don't dwell there and you can get back out of it, I think that's the
Right.
key.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Just be thankful for the things that have happened. We're all lucky, really.
Yeah, I feel that we are blessed, and there's going to be someone out there that's going to be listening to this or watching it, and there's something they want to do with their life, but they haven't even taken that first step. They feel
Right.
stuck. What advice would you give to help them out?
Man, it could be really difficult, like not knowing what you want to do and like thinking, well, could I do this? Could I do this? And I was really lucky in that I knew I wanted to play guitar and be a musician. So, that was a really good thing. But then it was a matter of, okay, just work as hard as I can, immerse myself into this 100%, give it my all. And that's what I would tell everybody, if you you realize you want to do something and, maybe you have a knack for it or you're good at it, then just get into it, man. Follow your passion, follow your dream, and work as hard as you can and never stop, Just keep at it. There's going to be times when you're down, but you got to keep getting up. And
That's right. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. Don't stay down. Whatever you do,
exactly.
don't stay down. And that's pretty easy to do to when you get in that just want to give up and feeling sorry for yourself. It's no way to live, man. And
yeah, I mean, people get paralyzed with like fear and they don't move at all. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Just gotta keep moving. And if you do that, it's gonna lead somewhere, and just have to have faith that it's gonna lead somewhere, even though you don't know exactly where that might be.
Well,
Dr. Vin here.
Speaking of being blessed, I've met so many wonderful people in my life, and I have been blessed that some that I've gotten close to, and they've given me great advice. Some of them almost take me under their wing. Is there anybody that kind of did that for you?
Man, I'd say early on, like my first manager, gave me a lot of good advice, not only about the music business, but like, what to do with your money and, how to think ahead. So, yeah, I would say, he was a mentor in a lot of ways. And I'm thinking there's someone else, but yeah, I know I'm going to think of it later. There's definitely somebody else.
Well, like I said, if you're like me, I think of everything about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, what's the worst is when you wake up at like 4 a.m. and start thinking the wheels start turning and you can't fall back asleep, and then it's like, oh man, why is this all hitting me now?
Got a new album out. It's called Double Exposure. It's available to digital. Is it going to be on record?
Yeah, CDs on Amazon, iTunes, and I'm looking at touring next year and doing some of this stuff live, which will be really cool.
And so, are you having the records made, or are you just sticking to like CDs and stuff?
A lot of people have asked about vinyl, and I guess I should consider that. It's really expensive
That's what I've heard.
to do, but I don't really even care about making money off of the records. If I could break even, I'd be happy. And they come in batches of 100, as far as I know. I need to research it a little bit more. I think I could easily sell 100. So yeah, maybe I should get off my butt and do that.
Well, I think the album is well worth it. It's pretty badass.
Thank you.
I enjoyed every part of it. Now, who's doing all the singing on those?
There's 4 different friends of mine that are singing. One of my friends' name is Keith Slack, who lives down there on, well, he's from Beaumont, Texas, and I don't know where he lives now, somewhere near Dallas. And I've known him since like 1999, and we always wanted to work together. And this was like finally the right moment to have him sing on a couple. He was on Hummingbird and Paid My Dues, and has an awesome big voice that I love. And there's a guy named Ed Terry who lives on Long Island, New York, and he sang on Vertical Horizon and River Flow. And we were on a project together a few years ago, and I really liked his voice and his ideas that he contributed to that project. So he was the kind of a guy I kept in the back of my head. And then also a guy named Mike DiMeo, who's also from Long Island, New York. He played in my band on a tour in Europe, playing keyboards and then singing a little bit. And so that was like an obvious choice too. He came to my mind very quickly, and he was on the song Rise. And the other guy was Brian Stephenson from Toronto. He was in an old band called Old James that opened for me and Uli Roth and Black Knights Rising on a tour we did in 2016. And he was a really good kid. I liked his voice and the songs that he had written. So he was another guy I kept in mind. So it was just like, my circle of people. There was other singers that I've known, that could have been on here, but there just weren't enough songs on this one, so maybe I'll get to some of those guys, down the road a little later on.
Yeah, paid my dues. Had kind of a King's X sound to it.
That's funny because Keith sang on that one, and he's kind of tight with the King's X guys.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are from Houston.
Yeah. Yep. He's known those guys for years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have that song, they've mentioned Hendrix, and I hear a little Hendrix in that too, in the riff especially. It's got the Stratocaster kind of tone. Yeah, definitely a more bluesy kind of thing. It's good to kind of move to different areas stylistically. Like I said, I have some of the Southern rock kind of vibe on there. And especially with Hummingbird, and then I got the Hendrixy blues with Rocket or Paid My Dues, and I think there's even a little bit of Aerosmith in there at times. So a lot of those influences start to come out.
You have a vision and you stuck to it, and it's definitely seen or heard in Double Exposure.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. Yeah, once I get started on something, I'm persistent, and I want to keep fighting to get it done, and to make it as good as I possibly can.
Well, you definitely did, and I highly recommend this album. And the singing, and then even the instrumentals, all of them kick butt.
Thanks, man.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, vinniemoore.com.
Mm-hmm.
Vinnie with an IE. A lot of people spell it with a Y, get it wrong, but that's okay. Just remember IE.
And what about social media?
Yeah, I have Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
And they can buy the album on your website, I assume.
Yeah, if you go to my website, there's links to my Big Cartel page, and I sell autograph copies there at my Big Cartel page, and also Amazon, of course, iTunes, and Amazon Music or whatever.
Well, Vinnie, it's been a blessing to have you here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Great chatting with you.
And I'm going to put those links in the description so it'll be easy for people to find. And I'm telling you, if you love music, you need to listen to this album. And I'm not just saying it because Vinnie's paying me $1,000. No, I'm kidding.
Thanks, man. 1,000. I thought it was 500, man. You said 500.
It just doubled.
Well, that's the biggest compliment I could get. So, man, that means a lot, really.
Again, thank you. And I want to thank all of you out there. If you are new to the channel, you just happened by, I appreciate that. And I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for the rest of you, and my regulars, it's because of you I get to do this. So I can't thank you enough. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.